really amazing to be in conversation and to welcome you, David,
Thank you.
to the space. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us. David is known as our naked pastor, and maybe he would like to unpack that for us. He comes wearing clothes.
Yeah.
But vulnerable in many other ways.
David, if you don't mind sharing a little introduction of yourself, that might be an easier way to go about
Sure.
it.
Sure. Yeah, I lost Tamarin as well. So hi everybody, welcome. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be with you, hanging out, talking about whatever we're going to talk about. And if you have any questions for me, I'm totally open to whatever you want to ask. Tamarin first asked to unpack what naked pastor means. So I grew up in the church. I went to Bible college. I went to seminary. I became a pastor. I pastored churches for like 30 years. And I started blogging in like 2004 or 5. And I thought I wanted to be different from other pastor bloggers. I wanted to be really brutally honest about what really goes on in the ministry and what really goes on in the church. And, you know, that's been one of my driving forces anyway, to be free to express myself and to be my authentic self. I really want that freedom for myself, and I want that freedom for others. And so that's what naked pastor basically means, is me being honest and open and vulnerable and transparent and raw and real, all those things. So it's just me. And naked pastor to this day, I still have nakedpastor.com. To this day, it's just all about me expressing myself and creating a space where I can feel free to express who I am, my most authentic life, and my real thoughts and struggles and everything. And, you know, that's my primary thing. And then the spinoff is hopefully that other people will feel inspired to feel free to express themselves in whatever way. And I do that through writing and speaking and my cartoons and my art, and, you know, all that stuff it's just me expressing myself. That's my number one, you know, role. I feel it's just to be me, and to be me honestly. And, you know, me doing that apparently inspires other people to, not everybody's inspired by what I do, but, you know, a lot of people are inspired to live their own authentic and free lives as well. So, and hopefully that finds expression in whatever way they are being creative, right? So whether it's through their art or their writing or poetry or dance or, you know, painting, whatever it is, they feel that freedom to be fully creative and to express themselves freely. So, you know, I was pastoring churches for about 30 years, and I left the ministry in 2010 and decided to put all my effort into naked pastor full time, and to see if it would work, and it did. So that's what I do now all the time, is basically, you know, naked pastor stuff, cartooning, writing, speaking, you know, painting, all that I do. So
yeah, that's great. Apologies, my internet did a bit of a dive, but I'm back. So I think one of the questions we had was, you know, about your transition from the pastor to the artist, and I'm sort of, do you hold the two roles, and then does this lead us into the liberation of Sophia?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah, the liberation of Sophia. It's really an incredible story, if I must say so myself. I've always, ever since I can remember, I've been drawing and, doodling and sketching and painting. My dad was a painter on the side, and I just grew up around an artist, and it was just very accessible to me. I fell in love with watercolor as for painting, and drawing, and so it's always been there. So I didn't really sort of transition from ministry to art. I was always doing both. And but when I left the ministry, I left professional ministry. Some people still claim I'm doing ministry in my own unique way, unattached to any denomination or church. So maybe I haven't transitioned at all. Maybe I've just sort of, put more emphasis on one or the other or whatever. I used to call myself an artist trapped in a pastor's body, and then a pastor trapped in an artist's body, all that kind of thing, because I didn't know how to describe myself. Yeah. And so it's still kind of that way, where I love helping people in their spiritual journeys, and I also love art. So I do both. But the power of creativity and art really hit home to me. I left the ministry in 2010, and then it was a couple of years later. I thought I was doing okay, but I realized I wasn't really doing well. It was a very, very difficult transition from professional ministry, and there was a lot of pain associated with that. And my wife had started university to get her nursing degree. She started her nursing degree when she was 48 years old. And so, our kids had left home, empty nest, all this stuff sort of converged to create the perfect storm of trauma, really. It was a really difficult process. But one afternoon, I was just sketching, and when I was done, I had this picture of Sophia Fearless. Can I share my screen for a sec? Let me see if I can.
I'm just looking at the settings. Sorry, I'm trying to find how to change it. There we go. That should work. Let me know if that works.
I'm trying to find where we are here. Sorry. There you are. Okay. Share screen. Desktop. Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So that's the first one I drew. And I had no idea what I was doing. Even my wife was like, I'm just informing my wife I'm on a podcast. I had no idea. Like, I'd never drawn anything like this before, ever. And even my wife was like, what's that? What's that about? And I said, I don't know. I just felt like drawing it. And I hadn't planned it. I just drew a grizzly bear towering over a little girl with a teddy bear. And that began a journey that lasted 2 years. And I'm trying to figure out how to unshare my screen here.
We can see the picture now. We're all good.
You can see that?
Yes, okay. The girl with the teddy towards the bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
I wish I could talk like you sometimes. It's so cute. Kitties with the bee. Let me see if I can stop sharing the screen. There we go. And that started a 2-year-long process where I drew 59 Sophias, and I wrote a meditation for each one. But it wasn't until I was about 8 pictures in when I realized I was drawing my own journey. And that I was drawing my own journey out of sort of the oppressive, restrictive heavy life I lived in the ministry and in the church and everything. And it was Sophia represented my spirit, escaping from all that stuff, and eventually coming to a place where she was living out her full freedom. It took me 2 years to eventually turn it into a book, but and you know, this is the Spanish version of it, but it's one of my most loved books because it's just an honest expression of how every one of us needs to find out how to live free. And you know, my creativity, my art was a way for me to sort of cathartically get that out onto paper. And it was a very, like I said, cathartic and healing process. So that by the end of that process, it felt like the tap was turned off. I didn't draw any more Sophias, and the story was done, and I was free, and end of story. So I turned it into a book, and yeah, it just showed me the power of art to take us through difficult processes and to process difficult periods in our life. And the side benefit is that it helps others as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, I mean, how would I orchestrate this question? The reality of Sophia walking with you through this transitioning, I almost hear, if I can use in my own words, an awakening of some sorts of freedom, the realization, an accompaniment.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of people who have a lot of theories about how that all worked and everything. My theory is that it's kind of Jungian, you know, Carl Jung,
Yes.
the analyst, where for a man, this is kind of old school binary thinking, but for the man, there's the anima, the female aspect, and for a woman, it's the animus, the male aspect. And the anima often appears in my dreams as a woman, either a young woman or a witch, or you know, a wise woman, or something or other. And so also Sophia is actually the Greek word for wisdom. And so those two things sort of work together, that my own inner wisdom and my own inner shall we say feminine qualities of compassion and nurturing and understanding and creativity and grace and birthing and all those things that I felt were oppressed in the church culture I grew up in, finally were allowed expression. And it was her way of escaping from all that, you know, sort of male dominated patriarchal religious life to a more liberating, free, and more artistic, creative life.
Yeah.
And you know, because I know I've been there. I've been in the church, I've been in seminary, you know, I've been to presbytery meetings, I've been to all the stuff, and I know it's very, very male dominated and male driven. And you know, theology is way more important than art, you know, and etc. And I felt that this whole journey of mine flipped all that on its head, so that creativity for me is really the most important thing, in whatever way that finds expression. And it could be theology, creative theology, but it's creativity in general that's really valued here, and the freedom of expression there. I just read a book, just came out, by Rick Rubin, who's a music producer, and it's called The Creative Act. a way of being. And it's a new release. I just read that. It's such a beautiful book. I'm recommending it to everybody, like I am now. And it's just, if you're a creative, it's a must read. It was just a powerful reminder of how creativity is such a powerful force in our lives that we should be, enjoying and using every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the interesting thing too is, like, I never planned any of these drawings. Like, I never sat down and said, I'm going to draw a picture of a woman with a bunch of elephants. I never planned that. I just sat down. I had a bottle of wine ready to go. I had the music blasting. I had my pen and pencil ready to go, and I would just start drawing. Whatever came out, so that by the end of it, I was kind of surprised myself at what I came up with. And so there's this kind of a unconscious flow happening. And I don't, I don't want to get all woo-woo about it and say that, a spirit entered me and took over. And I don't go there. It was just me being totally free to just do what I wanted to do and to draw what I wanted to draw without any restrictions or ought and must and should and rules and all that thing, because I'd been living under that for so long. Living under a religious mindset where there's certain rules to follow and there's certain ways of doing things and there's certain goals and outcomes you need to achieve. Instead, I sat down and just saw what happened. And to me, that was a very liberating experience. And I think every artist should try to experience that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, something that I heard was it's Sophia was your spirits. And then, the struggle with the church, and then realizing that creativity was actually expressing something to you as you were journeying through this that seemed somewhat to highlight a priority. And my wondering is that, what does this mean in connection with our authentic selves and our spirits? And and connecting to that to truly understand ourselves, and then within our spirituality, and there's just so much in that. It's so powerful.
Yeah. So I don't know everybody's experience here, obviously, but mine was like, I grew up in a home, oldest of 5 kids. My dad was a cop. It was a very law-abiding household, and because and plus we went to church, and so there was this sort of double whammy of living in a house of a cop, but also living in a religious sort of a culture. But like I said before, one of my most primal drives is to be my authentic self, which of course the law doesn't really like or encourage. And my experience might not be everybody's, but I don't think religion is the best place to experiment with being your authentic self either. And so I was constantly under this pressure to not only find my authentic self, but to express my authentic self and be comfortable with it. And it got to the point where in 2010, I realized the only way I can pursue this primal drive of mine to be free to be my authentic self was to leave the ministry and embark on my own path, and not everybody's in the ministry and all that, but most of us grow up in homes that aren't welcoming to authenticity a lot, and we grow up in schools, and we have jobs and maybe marriages and maybe churches and so on, where it's a real challenge to find the courage to be who we feel we really are. And so that's one of the things I endeavor to try to help people with, is to get to that place where they're comfortable even believing in themselves and expressing themselves.
And I suppose, I mean, here's a question that I had down for you. In you know, in deconstructing some of those constructs, right? That's what you're doing. We're having a look, I don't know, from the outside, how you would explain that. But I'm really curious to know what were some of your best surprises in this process of discovering your authentic self?
So yeah, you use the word deconstruction. I started using that in about the year 2008 to describe my questioning of beliefs. And I call it deconstructing because you're sort of a lot of, have you all heard of Marie Kondo? Do you know who Marie Kondo is? She's the Japanese minimalist who teaches you how to unclutter.
Yes, I knew the name, but
okay. So basically deconstruction for me is Marie Kondoing your beliefs. Like getting rid of all the clutter, all the stuff that isn't necessary and that you've collected and gathered and no longer serve you or spark joy, as she would say. And so I just use that a lot. And we don't just apply that to religion, we can apply it to all kinds of things too, right? Like relationships or family or politics or education or whatever. Marie Kondoing, getting rid of all the clutter and getting rid of all the things that don't spark joy. And so for me, some of the happy discoveries for me was that I'm way more capable of serving myself than I've been led to believe. Like, I don't know about you all, but I was raised to never trust my mind, never trust my feelings, and to be suspicious of my body. And, you know, that I was raised to believe that I was a sinner from birth and that my heart was very deceitful and that my mind was wicked and, you know, bent on evil and, you know, all this kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff I was taught. And it was a delight for me to discover that I'm a good person. Like, I'm a nice guy. And, you know, that I can create things that people love and appreciate. And, you know, so for me, it was some of the delightful discoveries weren't anything mind-blowing. It was just more like, wow, I can actually drive my own car. Like, I can actually take the steering wheel of my own life and accomplish something for myself. I can trust myself. I can be independent and autonomous and self-determining. I can be the captain of my own ship and the master of my own destiny, you know, like Nelson Mandela said at one time. And you know, that's one of the delightful discoveries for me, is that I was warned, you can't leave, you're going to perish out there. And I discovered that's not true, that I actually thrived when I left all of that.
The thriving. And then the wondering as well, if we can just have a look at the vulnerability that is involved in discovering the authentic self.
Right.
Personally, I don't mind speaking for myself that it's not been easy. It's not been easy, and I'm wondering how that journey was for you. Perhaps we can share some of that for others that might be.
The journey of self-discovery, you mean?
The authenticity, you know, sort of decluttering, the deconstruction.
Right.
Yeah, I think just, you know, what message could we give to those who might be in that vulnerable space?
Well,
what was your experience?
I often use this example, like if we were always surrounded by people who are like, David, you go, you know, you find yourself, you need to find yourself. We're here for you no matter what. Unconditional love and acceptance. You will always have our support, and we're totally here for you. Then I think we would be less afraid of discovering our authentic self and expressing our authentic self. The problem is fear holds us back because, you know, there's that risk of rejection that we're going to experience from our family and friends and others, right? And so for me, it was realizing, wow, the people, I am being somebody for people who that's not the real me. And so these people are loving somebody who's not me. Actually, it's a fantasy, and it's a phantom. It's not the real me. And so the risk is I want to be the real me so that the real me can be loved. That's always the choice. That's always the choice, is to be the real me or to be loved. But when you discover that you have to pretend in order to be loved, then you realize, okay, the choice is I have to be the real me first, and being loved and appreciated comes second. And what I found is that people will love you as your authentic self, and there are going to be people who won't love you for being your authentic self. And I've just had to accept that's the way it is. But I would rather be loved for who I am than for my fake self to be loved, because that just feels really empty and frustrating. And so I'm as real as I can be, my most authentic self. And of course, that's a lifelong journey of discovery. Like it's never over. It's a bottomless, you know, unfathomable depths of who we are. And so it's a lifetime of discovery, but it's also a lifetime of figuring out how to live that out freely. And that's number one. That just has to be number one, is being you. And secondly, though, is people will find you who love you. You know, that you will be found, and you'll find people to love and who love you and appreciate you. But on the other hand, you need to be prepared that there's going to be some people who really don't like you because of who you are. But at least they aren't liking you for who you are, and not some pretend self who you aren't, you know? So that was a choice I decided to make, you know, especially when I left the ministry the last time in 2010. It was like, I have to be myself, and I had to take the risks. And yes, it hurt, but I've recovered well. I've found, you know, people who appreciate what I do, and that's what life is putting your stuff out there for praise or for criticism. Either way, you never know, you never can predict, but at least you've expressed yourself. That to me is what's most important.
Sure. It's phenomenal. And so wrapped up in the vulnerable, authentic self is the invitation for self-love.
Right. Yeah.
Acceptance. Right.
Somebody just made thanks so much for your courage and being your authentic self. Your drawings have really been a healing companion in my journey. If I drop off, it might be because of connection. Oh, okay.
And I think she's back again. So
great. Yeah, so it's, you know, I draw for myself first, and it's almost like it has to come out, and then who likes it, and who don't like it, don't like it. and that's just the risk we always have to take.
Mm.
There's no way you can get everybody to love you. There's just no way. And so I realizing that the best thing for me to do is to be honest and real with who I am. And to have the courage to put my stuff out there, you know.
Mm. Mm. I think that one of the ways that I've been so moved by your expression is a lot of the pictures of Jesus who's sitting with the marginalized. And I give that word, I don't know if you'd prefer another word, you're welcome to introduce it. And so the question is, a lot of your work covers, perhaps we can call it the marginalized, and how do you believe we can imagine an all-accepting society?
So I missed a bit of your question. So Jesus with the marginalized?
Yeah, I think so. So that's a lot of your work. I'm moved
Right.
by that, where we see Jesus sitting with, with so to say the marginalized.
Right.
You look at it from society's perspective,
Yeah.
and perhaps this is my ideal thinking coming in here. But how do you believe we can imagine an all-accepting society?
Yeah.
Can we? Are we dreaming?
So
Deeply moved by that.
it all stems back to my, like I said, my primal drive is I want to be free to express myself, to be my authentic self. And I think others should be given that freedom as well. Unfortunately, those people who think they are in and center themselves feel they have the right to tell others who is in and who is out, and that they actually feel they have a right to marginalize people, LGBTQ, people of color, women, people with different beliefs or other religion, or et cetera, et cetera. So for me, we're all connected. We're all one. Everyone belongs. That's what I honestly believe. And so my work kind of has a two-edged sword aspect to it, where I encourage people who are marginalized, that I believe they are included. And on the other edge is I challenge those who marginalize, people and systems and institutions and organizations that marginalize, and ideas that marginalize others. So that's kind of I think that's why my work is loved by the marginalized people out there, and why it's hated by those who marginalize. I mean, that's basically where you can draw the line between who supports my work and who doesn't. It's between those who feel rejected and those who are doing the rejecting. People who reject others don't like to be told they're rejecting others, and they justify it in all kinds of ways. And it's not me who's rejecting, it's the Bible, or it's not me who's rejecting, I'm just representing God, or or they're sinners, or they're whatever, all kinds of ways of keeping people out. And so I just tried to turn that all on its head, and to try to challenge all that kind of divisive kind of thinking and ideas and organizations and so on. And of course, if I was hopeless, I wouldn't be doing this. So I guess there must be some kind of hope that we're moving in the right direction, and that more and more people will feel justice is growing and increasing, and will eventually include them as well. So as long as we keep encouraging the marginalized, and challenging those who marginalize, maybe we'll see progress.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that prophecy the angel gave Mary, where it's from Isaiah, I think, where the low places are brought up and the high places are brought low, and you know, we're all on the same level. That to me, I think, is the work I'm involved in, and I think we all should. Yeah.
Before I open the floor to any more questions, I'd just like to say that I think in many ways that within that space of that high and that low is where you really helped me when I messaged you that 2 or 3 years ago, and there was a bit of an onslaught in my community, and I was leaving, and I was that girl in your cartoon where everyone was saying she's backsliding, and I was saying, I'm not backsliding. I didn't know I was growing. I had no idea I was growing, but I knew I wasn't backsliding. And I remember messaging you in an absolute dilemma, just like, I'm going through this and I don't know what to do. And you replied and you said to me, you said, mind open, heart soft. And I sat and I looked and I thought, I want my mind to be open and my heart to be soft. And that kind of felt like it brought that balance back, you know, where I could have traded onto the grounds of judgment and frustration and resentments, but somehow it just brought me back to that high or that low. And
I remember that now.
Healing.
I remember that now. That's one of I love that cartoon, because, you know, deconstruction is being tossed around right now. A lot of people are criticizing it and trying to control it and minimize the damage and everything.
Yeah.
And for me, deconstruction is just another word for growing beyond childhood and adolescence, and, you know, into a more adult kind of a way of understanding the world.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's just growth. It's just another word for growth. Deconstruction. It happens even in our homes, not even on a religious plane, where our kids get to the point where I have 3 kids, they're all adults now. But they go from the point where they think we're like God and we can do anything, to they start questioning things, you know, and then they finally get to the point is like, why should I believe you just because you're my parent, you know, or their teacher? Why should I believe you? Or, you know, why should I obey you? Or why should I believe this book or whatever? And that's a natural human healthy development. And I think if we were more open-minded and soft-hearted about it all, we would allow people to go through that process, knowing that eventually they would come around to a more a balanced view where, yeah, I don't just blindly obey, but I can take your advice, and, you know, things like that. So it's just a natural process in the human development, and it should be the same way in our spiritual growth, where we can justifiably and in a healthy way say, why should I believe that just because, you know, an authority said it, it's true, and go to find out for yourself. It's like here in some First Nations tribes here in North America, where they send out their young people at a certain age to find their spirit guide or whatever, where they send them out alone into the wilderness, and they don't come back until they've found their spirit guide, or until they've found themselves and they've discovered their call in life or whatever. We should allow people that same kind of liberty to discover themselves and express themselves as they are.
Yeah. Sort of like a parent bringing a child something, says, look what I found.
Yeah. Oh, we're losing you again.
sorry, I'm going to jump in. I think we're losing Tamron. Maybe if people want to ask questions in the chat so long, I'll see if Tam comes back.
Yeah, anybody have anything you want to ask me or know about or curious about? I'll answer any question. Nothing's off limits.
I see Heather's got a hand up.
David, it's Heather speaking. There's two things that have really struck me, and I'm wondering, you decided that you wanted to discover your authentic self. Is your authentic self very different from the person that you were?
Okay, that's
yes. And the other one was, you spoke about, you decided there was a time in your life where you really wanted to be brutally honest. And that's sort of when things started to change. And I'm wondering, where did that desire to become brutally honest, was there a reason that it came about? Was there, I don't want to long-wind the question, but that kind of, what caused that?
So, yeah, it's like ever since I can remember, I always felt different, and I could often be by myself for long periods of time, and I'd be drawing or whatever. Or I could be walking alone in the woods, and I can't believe it. As a small child, I would be off by myself for hours in the woods or whatever. But there was always this trying to shape me into being a normal person. So here's a little example I'll give you. I was just a really small child, and it was way back. I don't know about South Africa, but here when we were little children, we had big fat red pencils.
Yes.
I don't know if you had them there, but and I really loved mine to be dull, because I loved the shading I could get from a dull pencil.
Yes.
But every morning the teacher made us line up and sharpen our red pencils. Well, one morning I refused to get in line to sharpen my pencil, and she came with her triangular ruler and rapped me on the knuckles and made me get in line and sharpen my pencil. But the reason was I wasn't being defiant or anything. I just liked my pencil dull, because I love the shading I could get with a dull pencil, that I could sharp pencil. And so that is just sort of a little snapshot into how I felt my life was this is how I like to do things, but you're not supposed to. I even remember doing one of my first watercolors ever, and my dad got very angry because that's not how you do it. And to this day I still paint kind of the same way, where they're very moody, and there's a lot of space, and there's a little person in a huge landscape and all that kind of thing. And very dreamy, kind of melancholy, but that I just love painting that way, and apparently other people love it too. But I always felt like that was my life, was I wanted to do it this way. And so when I mean brutally honest, I just mean I just wanted to be me in a world that preferred me to be another way. And some of it was out of concern and everything. The teacher, I can't read your writing as well if it's dull. Or my dad was like, if you want to sell a painting, it's got to be something people like, kind of thing. So but so that's what I mean, was it's always been there, where I was kind of I remember Dad painted a portrait of me when I was a kid, and when he was done, my mom looked at it and he says, you've made him look like he's pouting. What pouting is?
Yes.
Okay. And my dad said, well, he is a pouter. And, you know, I don't think I was a pouter. I just think I was a brooder. Like I was constantly thinking and imagining
Yes.
and drawing and all that
Mm.
kind of thing. So
Mm.
that's just me wanting to be me in a world that felt hostile toward it.
Yes.
So that's what I mean by, you know,
Mm. Thank
and
you.
have things changed? Well, I do feel I have more freedom to be who I am than when I was in
Okay.
church. There was,
Mm.
I just felt like I had to be careful because
Mm.
I was responsible for other people and there was a
Mm.
church at stake and, you know, people,
Mm.
and I had a boss and, you know, so I had to sort of
Yeah.
hold the line, like, and I was happy with the arrangement. I had the church was great, my leadership team was great, everything was wonderful until it got to the point where I felt like I was pushing boundaries that they weren't as comfortable
Mm.
with. And that's when I felt I had to leave.
Mm. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Anybody else have anything about the creative process or, you know, making your art or anything? Louise?
Yeah.
Hi, David. Thanks so much. I just wonder, can you show us the picture, the last picture of Sophia?
The last one?
The last one out of you showed us the first one, but I'd very
Yeah.
much like to see the last one. Do you have it?
Oh, of course. Yes. Here, I'll show you two. One moment.
Thanks.
There we go.
While
Share.
David is looking, I know that we found some of Sophia. Oh, there we go. That was one of them.
Okay, this
I'll
one
go
here,
and mute now.
this one here that you see is called Cave. And I drew this. This was about my 8th one in. And it was when I was drawing this when I realized, oh my goodness, I'm drawing my own story, because I started crying when I was drawing it. And I realized, oh my goodness, like this is me facing a cave. And we all know that the cave represents going deeper, like going into our deeper selves. The cave is a symbol of going in, you know, going deeper into our own self. And it's very scary. There's creepy things there, you know, that we've never seen before. And we're very nervous about it. We prefer to live out in the light, you know, but it's important for personal development and mental health and everything that we go into our deepest self. So this was me, Sophia, facing, should I go in or not? And I was at this point, I realized that I was drawing my own journey. Oh, it was quite a powerful realization. Then the last one is light. Oh, wait, here. And that was the last one
Oh.
where she's walking out of the darkness into the light. And it's so weird. But when I finished this painting or with this drawing, I was finished. It was done. No more drawings. Well, a couple more came after that. But this is where the inspiration stopped. You know what I mean? The other ones I planned on and I worked on and everything. These were all the ones before, the 59 before, including this one, were spontaneous moments. And so this shows her kind of walking out of her tomb, I guess, in a way. And yeah, that was the last one, light. One of my favorite ones though is Angel, which shows this is Angel here. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Where she realized that she was an amazing, beautiful being. And you know, growing up in a home and in a religion that taught me that I was unworthy, to come to that point of realization that I'm a incredible human was quite an emotional point in my life. So Light, Louise, was the last one. Yeah.
Thank you very much, David.
You're welcome.
If there's anyone that has any questions, you're welcome to type it into the chat if you're worried about your connection. We're a minute over time, but we'll give it an extra 4 or so.
Yeah, if anybody has anything you want to ask me, Claire?
Claire, yeah.
I actually wanted to ask, I've been following you on Instagram for a while and loving your stuff, but lately I saw a post about an upcoming children's book. I don't know if you're allowed to share yet anything about it, but I'm really, really excited to hear more, if you have more to share.
Yeah. So this is my latest book. This one just came out last summer. Flip It Like This. This is my book of best of cartoons. So there's over 4,000 cartoons out there, and I had to distill it down to like 130. So if you ever want to pick that up, that's my latest one. But I was just approached by a children's book publisher and asked if I would write a children's book around my famous rainbow sheep characters. And I said, sure. I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I've learned a lot the past few weeks about children's books and picture books. It is an incredible genre. And I think this is my most intimidating project. So I'm really nervous about this because there's some really, really, really good children's books out there. And I totally underestimated and undervalued and the whole children's book market. Like it's phenomenal. So I need to come up with a story about a rainbow sheep and finding acceptance and so on, and suffering rejection and everything, with a sort of a naked pastor twist to it. So I'm excited about it, but at the same time, I'm really feeling the challenge. And so I'm reading up on how to write children's books and how to illustrate children's books, because I'm the writer and illustrator, which is an unusual thing. And I'm also ordering children's books that, have been bestsellers and stuff. And I'm like, holy smokes, I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. So it's serious business. And, generally speaking, children's books are 500 words, 32 pages. And, so it's pretty fascinating.
I'll be buying it for my kids as soon as it's out. It'll be in my house.
Yeah, it's come out next year. They want my first draft by August. So I've only got a few months to get that done.
Okay.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, we fully believe in you. We're waiting for that. I see Louise asked David, do you mind sharing your email address with us? Or you're open to us contacting you?
No, yes. Yeah, there's my email. Yeah, anybody have any other questions you want to ask, or anything you're dying to know, but you just are afraid to ask?
So I don't want to take too much time, David, but I come from a therapy background, but also have a very deep interest in spirituality. And it's been quite a while now that I've really listened to numerous people's stories about spiritual awakening happening through unstructured art. And so yeah, I think that's my absolute fascination, and I think it's different than religion. There's a deeper awakening that happens Yeah, so I think your story is incredible, but it's really exciting to know that it's not the only one. That I think so many of my clients who have mental health issues, it's almost like you come to a point, exactly like you know, there's the something that's calling you deeper, and it's saying that yes, for that deeperness and really discovering yourself through that. But it's almost as if art is the most a conducive medium, if I can put it that way. So it really just excites me incredibly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% that art is a very undervalued tool. I hate to use that word, it sounds so utilitarian, but it really can accomplish a lot. I mean, how many of us here know that a song can break our heart open, or a painting can open our minds to something new, or a movie can change our minds about some idea we had, or people that we thought about, or something like, you know, I had somebody once tell me, because I do these really kind of these melancholy kind of peaceful watercolors paintings, and somebody said, you know, you're always doing watercolor, why don't you try something different? And I thought, well, maybe I'll challenge myself. So I bought some canvases and some acrylic paint, and I got a big canvas, put it out on our floor, and I just decided I'm just gonna throw paint, see what happens. Because I've never done abstract painting before, and it's always been landscapes or something. And so I just started throwing paint and using knives and scrapers and, you know, brushes, and running paint over the canvas, everything. And you know what? I created a couple paintings that I think are not half bad. And it was a huge breakthrough for me to realize that, you know, I told myself before that I don't do, or I can't do abstract, when it was just fear holding me back, you know. It's kind of like freedom. I believe everybody's free. It's just that there's fear and caution holding us back. I realized that when I left the ministry. I thought I was trapped. But I woke up one morning realizing, hey, I'm not trapped. I'm just afraid of the consequences of living free. You know, I'm going to have to find a new place to live. I'm going to have to find a new job. I'm going to have to find income. I'm going to have to find new friends. You know, there was a lot to be afraid of, justifiably, but I was already free. I was just afraid to live free. And it's the same. It's the same with art and all that. Like it was fear holding me back from creating something different and trying something new. Yeah. And it's very therapeutic. Like I said before, this whole Sophia journey for me was very cathartic. It was very healing. By the time I was done, it was like, wow, I just documented my own journey to freedom, and here I am, you know. And it happened by accident, spontaneously. But I think when we open ourselves up to those possibilities, it can happen. And so, like this fall, actually, we're actually entertaining the thought of having a art therapy weekend where people who are feeling trapped in some situation or another, maybe in a church or in a job or in a marriage or in a, you know, whatever, that they will do experimental art. What do you call it? Unstructured art? Yeah, we'll do some unstructured art stuff, just to see what might hatch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I suppose in Jungian terms, of something about birthing the subconscious, and unearthing it. It's there. It's really coming to a discovery.
Yeah. I like Jung because he marries psychology with spirituality. Like you know, he came from he was a preacher's kid too. came from the ministry, you know, family and then the church and all that. But he had a very spiritual side to it. So that's why I appreciate Jung, and I refer to him a lot and read a lot of his stuff and dream interpretation and all that kind of thing. And, you know, we're seeing more people bringing those things together today. Like, are you aware of the Canadian psychologist Gabor Mate? Yeah, check him out. Here, I'll put him in.
Yeah, if you can put it in the chat, that'll be great. Then we can just.
But I think what's really amazing, sorry, David, if you don't mind me coming in here, I think a lot of Gabor Mate and things like that, it reverts back to narrative therapy and the rational mind. Whereas, whereas I think art, and I don't even mean art, I mean creating. So it doesn't even have to be something beautiful. It's something just coming from inside that is just allowed to express itself in whatever way. So I almost want to move away from the word art and go more to creating. And I even Jung, he goes to a point and then it's like there's no how, unless it goes back to, you know, narrating your dream or whatever. But I think there's something about this creating that's on a pre-verbal level almost, before you've even kind of conceptualized it. It allows it becomes a conduit for allowing that, and then with the process there's a discovery of who you authentically are. It's your spiritual essence in a certain sense, and I think that's
I like that pre-verbal, because Sophia, that whole thing was just me drawing. The meditations didn't come till after they were all drawn, so it was a very pre-verbal thing, and it wasn't until, you know, I was 8 pictures in that I realized, oh my goodness, something deeper is happening here. So yeah, very much so.
Sure. Thank you. David, we learn from you.
Thanks for having me.
With you, and we are so grateful for you taking this time to chat with us. And thank you for the work that you do.
What's that?
Thank you for the work that you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And just the way that it's touched so many. Really, there's many even in this room that I know that I can speak for, that it's touched deeply. And so with huge appreciation.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. And one last question: how do we get your stuff to South Africa?
How do I get to South Africa?
Yeah, how do you get? We'd love you here. How do we? So you and your artworks, your books, is it just a simple order on your website?
Yes. Okay. So nakedpastor.com.
Okay.
But all my books are on Amazon. I don't know how Amazon is with you there, but all my books are on Amazon, but all my art and everything is on nakedpastor.com.
Okay.
Yeah. So
fantastic.
I would love to come to South Africa one day, because I have friends there, and now you all. And yeah, it looks very beautiful, and I do like red wine, and I understand you have some very nice red wines there. So and beautiful beaches and so on. So yeah,
and we would welcome you with open arms. Just give us a shout, and
all right,
we'll pick you up from the airports.
Well, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you everyone for attending, and thank you, David, for your vulnerability and your
thank
sharing.
you.
Much appreciated.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Have a good evening. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, thank you.
Good night.